Hello and welcome to Questions for Lawyers. A quarantine is not going to stop this show. In fact, it's only going to make some of our content even better because we can go all over the country interviewing the best lawyers in their professions and their specialties for our audience. My name is Jeff Adelman, and today it's April 15th. It's everybody's favorite day. It's tax day. And I figured what better person to have on the air than my good friend Claudia Moncarz, who is a tax attorney and is coming to us from Maryland, but she practices all over the country. She's from Miami. I knew her from my time at Florida State. And you may not be in Florida, but it's great seeing you, Claudia.
Likewise. Thank you, Jeff.
Could you tell the audience a little bit about your background and how you got into tax law?
Yes. So I've been practicing for, like over 15 years. I went to law school at, the University of Florida, but I'm still a Seminole at heart. I pick Garnet Gold. And when I went there, my first summer in law school, I clerked for a criminal judge. I didn't like criminal law, so he sent me to like all the different divisions, and I ended up in probate court, and I loved it. So I came back and said, I'm going to be a estate planning lawyer. And they said, if you really want to do this, you need to take some tax courses. So I did, and those were the only courses I actually understood. And I ended up getting an L.L.M in tax too. So I really, really like tax. And that's what I do. And right now, my practice, in our firm, we help people that have problems with the I.R.S. That's our focus of our practice.
And when you say you have an L.L.M, for those of the audience that didn't go to law, what is an L.L.M? What is required to get an L.L.M after law school?
I went an extra year to law school just to specialize in tax law.
You really like tax.
I really like tax.
3 years was not enough of law school. One more.
One more, just tax.
Well, I'm really glad that you're here with us, and I also want to point out you're bilingual.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your background.
Yes. Well, I was born in Panama, but mostly raised in the U.S. So I'm bilingual. A lot of my clients are Spanish speakers, and because of the diversity of our clients, we actually know a little bit about all different tax systems throughout Latin America and South America. And most of our staff is also bilingual.
That's terrific. So you kind of have an international practice. You're not just dealing with domestic issues in the U.S.
No, I actually have clients in Japan. I have clients in Europe. I have clients everywhere, because sometimes just clients that come to the foreigners that want to invest in the U.S., I help them out, or even Americans that are abroad. They still have some issues. They still have tax issues to deal with when abroad.
I'm sure you're going to be dealing with some of them on Zoom like we're doing right now, or you probably have been.
I actually use Skype with clients, but yeah, I'm used to having virtual conversation meetings with clients. So it wasn't as hard for us to go virtual. We were used to it. Already.
Well, I had to redecorate my office a little bit, but other than that, I love this egg. Oh, it's over here, excuse me. It's over my shoulder. We really kind of went all out. I kind of budgeted for this. But in any event, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to start a little bit about some of the CARES Act and some of the things that are going on. People are starting to get checks into their bank accounts from the I.R.S. Can you talk just briefly about that?
Yes. If you get the stimulus check if you made less than $75,000. I want to say for a married couple is $150, and then after that it starts phasing out. So if you made as a married couple like around $198, you will not get any of the stimulus check, and it's $1,200 per single and $24 for a married couple and $500 per child. If you didn't file and those are based on either your 2018 tax return or your 2019. So if you didn't file any of those because you were not required, a lot of people sometimes are not required, the I.R.S. has a tool in their website, and I can put I'll put in here in the chat, I'll put the website that you can go to put in your information, so you make sure that you can still get your check in your bank account, and you put your bank account information. And for those of you, there's a website, for those of you that file your returns, but the IRS doesn't have because they're sending everything to direct deposit. So if the IRS doesn't have your bank account information, there's also in that same page, the portal where you can put in your bank account information, so the IRS sends a direct deposit, your stimulus check. And they already started doing that. The other big thing is that you have to have a social security number. So a lot of foreigners start here with an ITIN, is not their social security numbers, they won't qualify. You have to have a social security number.
I'm looking at the website. It's irs.gov/coronavirus/economic-impact-payments for those of you who will be listening on podcast. And all of this information will be put together, and anybody who would like it, if you email Claudia after the show, she'll be happy to forward it to you as well.
Yes.
At Claudia at Moncarz Law, MONCARZ law.com. And we'll repeat that a little bit later. So for those of us with small businesses, though, the what you're talking about with the stimulus checks at $1,200, that's one thing. For those of us with the paycheck protection program that we're waiting for, can you give us a brief update about what's happening with that and what you see with that?
There's two big programs for small businesses. There's the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, and that is where they're giving you a loan based on your monthly payroll costs. And the big thing here is that it's not only for businesses, but also self-employed individuals, sole proprietorships. Those are the ones that have Schedule C on their tax return. They don't have a separate return for their business, and for partnerships. So they're really trying to encompass everybody. So that's a big thing. If you know somebody that's self-employed, let them know that they will still qualify. The other one, also the other big one, is the emergency disaster loans, emergency economic injury disaster loans. And those, they are, it's like a 3-phase. The maximum that you can borrow is $2 million, but you may not get there. And it's a 30-year loan with, they're talking right now about a 3.75% interest. And the first phase that they're giving is more of like a grant, and they're giving you $1,000 per employee. And if you already apply for that, a lot of people are getting those already. Phase 2 is that they're gonna give you up to $15,000, like a straight loan with no collateral, no guarantee, no nothing. And after that, there's probably the SBA doesn't have enough funding for phase 3 when they can really look at all your numbers. So, but definitely you should be able to get the first 2 phases.
Are these all loans, or some of these are grants, correct?
Some of them are grants. Like the PPP is technically a loan, but if you, once they give you the money, let's say that your payroll for the month is $10,000, right? Your average monthly payroll. So you're going to give you 2.5 times that. So you're going to give you $25,000. So then once you hit that money hits your bank account, you have 8 weeks to use it for payroll. You can 75% has to be used for payroll, and then the other 25% has to be used, can be used on rent, utilities, or interest in mortgage, or interest in other loans. Then if you use the money for what it was meant to do, then you show proof to your lender and eventually to the government that use it for that during that time period, then the loan will be forgiven. So it's like a grant if you follow the rules.
Got to follow the instructions.
Yeah. Then if you then the emergency loan is also a grant. The first, then they can give you up to $10,000 as a grant, even if you don't qualify for the loan eventually, for the bigger loan, or you decide not to take it. You can also decide not to take it. You're getting that money. So everybody should be applying at least for the emergency loan, because, and let's say you don't have any employees, you're a sole owner, a solo practitioner, you still have $1,000 that you don't have to repay. And that's always good for cash flow.
That's good to know, because while some people may not qualify for the stimulus checks, you're self-employed, then that's how the government is looking at you. And
Correct.
I think I'm reading that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you're always busy this time of year, but this year's been extra special. And some of the I.R.S. deadlines have been extended because of the coronavirus. And can you
Correct.
talk a little bit about that, about filing and for payment?
Yes. So one of the big things that the I.R.S. also did since the beginning of this whole crisis, the pandemic, was they extended a lot of the filing requirements that you have. So they extended your, for filing your federal income tax return, is extended to July 15th. And the other big one is that they also extended the time to pay. That's the first time the I.R.S. has ever done that, by the way. They extended your time to pay. So if you were supposed to pay taxes on July 15, that is extended. I mean, on April 15, that's extended to July 15 automatically. If you need more time than that to file your extension, then you file it in extension. But the important thing is that you have until July 15 to pay taxes with no penalty or interest. And that's
a big deal.
That's a big deal. They never done that before. They're also, they extended some of your, if you have to do estimated taxes, like if you own your own business or you're self-employed, technically, not everybody does this, but you have to pay estimated taxes every 3 quarters. So the estimated taxes for the first quarter for K1, first quarter of the year, are due April 15th. That has been extended until July 15th.
Well, very helpful.
That's very helpful because that's how people end up getting in trouble, because they don't pay their estimated taxes, kind of just snowballs. Also for payroll taxes, if you have employees, they are also extending some of those as well.
All right, well, and we may not be done with that, depending on how long this pandemic continues to cripple the economy. If you owe taxes to the I.R.S., what should you do now?
Well, if you owe taxes to the I.R.S., this is actually a great time to deal with it, because the I.R.S. is basically shut down. All their call centers are closed. They're not processing tax returns. So by the way, if you're going to file your 2019, make sure to e-file, because if you send it in paper, it's not going to get processed until past July. So they basically froze all collection activities until July 15th. So so if you owe money, they're not enforcing collections, which the I.R.S. is the biggest collection agency in the U.S., if you want to think about it. Their mission is to get as much money as fast as possible for the I.R.S. That's their stated mission. So you have all this time to get yourself ready to deal with your tax debt. And why it's important? Because it usually takes, there's 2 big things. One, you have to be current and compliant to even have a conversation with the I.R.S. What does that mean? Those estimated tax payments, you have to be making them every quarter. If not, they will not have this conversation with you. So now you have time. You can put in your head, July 15 is when I'm going to start being current. So you have time to plan how you're going to get to that point. Also, the other big thing, a lot of times, people that tend to be in tax debt tend to spend more than they bring in. So this is a good time to adjust your budget, so that, because the I.R.S. tells you, and I know it sounds awful, but they tell you what your budget should be. And it's really hard to tell them to move from that budget unless you have special circumstances. So this is a good time for people to adjust their budgets and maybe put in some other expenses that they couldn't even think about, like healthcare. The I.R.S. lets you spend on healthcare. So instead of sending money to the I.R.S., maybe you get a better health insurance. So things like that. So, and it takes usually about a month or 2 to plan all that out. So right now the I.R.S. is giving you until July 15th to plan all that out. which is great.
So I think what you're saying is part of the reason it's a good time to deal with prior tax problems prior to COVID-19 is the IRS is kind of like at a standstill, and if they can collect money right now, they're going to want to end those other things. They got a lot more coming up after this is all over.
And also, a lot of people, if you haven't filed your tax returns, I know a lot of people are filing now so that they can get this stimulus check. But at the same time, if you owe taxes, now the IRS has all this information and you're going to have to deal with it.
What if you're on an installment program with the IRS?
So one of the ways that you can resolve your tax problems with the IRS is you can get into a payment plan, which is an installment agreement, right? Mm-hmm. And if you are in a current one, the IRS right now has basically told you don't have to make any payments until July 15th. If you're having problems, obviously go pay your rent, go pay your food, go pay your necessities, and then you can start back on it on July 15th. And this doesn't break our agreement, because if you don't make your payments, the installment agreement terminates. And it's the same thing for what is called an offer and compromise. That's a technical name, but a lot of people call it, they want to negotiate with the IRS and pay for less. Those are harder to get, but if you actually get one, it's really important that you don't get it terminated, because then you go back to square one. And they also said, if you are not able to pay on those, it's okay, we're not going to terminate it, because that's very important.
Absolutely. Well, what kind of advice would you give, Claudia, for like cash flow tips right now for struggling businesses dealing with, really what we're all dealing with right now?
So like I mentioned before, one of the big issues with that, people don't get into tax debt on purpose. They're not cheating the IRS. They're not trying to get one up on the government. It's just because something happened, an event, either a sickness or some financial event happened, and it just snowballed out of that. And obviously, this is a big event that can cause your business or personally you to snowball your finances and get into tax debt. So one of the ways to avoid this is be vigilant on your cash flow. And what does cash flow means? Was the income that's coming into your bank account and the expenses and the income that's going out to pay expenses. So that is what cash flow is. And the big thing, so there's 3 tips that I have. And this applies, the first 2 applies for both businesses and individual, and the last one just for businesses. First one, check your bank account balance every day. That way you're seeing if there's anything that you forgot, any expense that was any bill that was going to be automatically deducted, you can check it right away. And now banks are being more lenient. So if you get a late fee or a insufficient funds fees or any of those bank fees, if you call them up, they're waiving them. And usually those fees are high. So that's a good way to get rid of them. Number 2, have an 8-week cash flow projection. And the simple way of doing that is just take an Excel spreadsheet, and then you're going to put all the income that you expect to get for the next 8 weeks. And then you're going to put all your bills or expenses for the next 8 weeks. And then every week, I do mine on Sunday nights. So either you can do it Monday morning or Friday or sometime in the weekend. Just have a time where you always check what is happening next week and then add another 8 weeks. So you're always projecting the next 8 weeks. And the beauty of doing that, and like I said, it can be in an Excel. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, is that you, especially for businesses, you'll be able to see when down the line you're going to hit a cash crunch, when you're going to need money. And that way you can plan today how to get money like 4 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now. And those are good tips to do year round. But especially now, you have to be a little bit more vigilant in cash, because cash is harder to come now. Lenders are not, maybe for the government loans, they're giving out money, but for regular loans, they're harder to get. Lending options are becoming less available. So and then the third one for businesses, now is time to keep a good eye on accounts receivables. You know, you send out bills that have not been paid. Now is it time to call them and maybe give them a payment plan. Maybe tell them you give them a discount if they pay, because $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow.
That's the truth.
It's economic concept. So,
Yeah.
so try to get, if you have accounts receivable, now is a good time to try to collect some of those as a business and get creative in how your clients can pay you.
Do you anticipate that there's going to be another, I would imagine you would anticipate there's going to be another stimulus program put together through Congress after this, because it doesn't look like this is going to end within that 8-week period.
Yeah, well, they're talking about funding the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan, but they're not talking about adding added funding to emergency disaster loans. So and just so you know, right now, so people have time-wise. Right now for the PPP plan, those are administered through it's the bank, and then they go to the SBA.
Sure.
I was in a call with one of the, in a telephone conference, that we were listening to one of the big lenders for the FBA. And I think it was last week, they had already allocated 1/3 of it, of the $300 billion, money that they have. So they allocated already 1/3. But they are talking about the stimulus that they're talking about Congress, that's for adding to that program.
Sure.
The emergency disaster loan, that one usually that's done by the FBA. And the reason why it's taking so long to be distributed is because they don't have the capacity to do this. They do about 80,000 loans a year, the FBA. So now they have millions of applications. I want to say I heard somewhere that they had like 3 million people apply for this emergency loans already. 3 million businesses.
I'm surprised it's not more than that.
Because people don't know about it still. But so their system, they don't have the capacity, the software has crashed a lot. But those usually they try to be fast with those, and they take no more than 3 weeks on those. But now who knows? And in Katrina, they were taking 3 to 4 months to process those loans. So,
oh my.
So yeah, yes, you're going to get loans. Yes, you're going to get help from the I.R.S, from the government, but don't plan to get them anytime soon, because even with the PPP ones, the banks don't have enough guidance. So things are not being processed. I heard of only a few people that received their PPP loan disbursements. So
well, I know that I got 3 applications before, while I was filling it out. Mm-hmm. They kept updating the application and making changes to it. So it's really by the seat of their pants every which way.
Yes, and actually last night they just came out with new regulations how to calculate the monthly payroll costs for self-employed people. Mm-hmm. Who don't necessarily give themselves a check. A salary, so like I said, they're still coming up with new things recently. So,
is it too late to apply?
No, because the banks it's too late probably to apply with the big banks. I think the big banks have reached their cap. Wells Fargo may still have some, but you can still. There's other if you have a small bank, you may be able to. Also, there's Gustos has through them. That's the payroll processor. Lendio, Cavish with a K, Fundera, I think, iQualify. I think there's just a lot of smaller, and a lot of them are online, then you can apply.
And anybody who would like, again, your literature after this presentation, will you list those websites on there as well?
Yes. If you want a summary of all this information, because I know I threw a lot of information out there, you can send me an email at claudia@moncarzlaw.com, and I will send you a summary of all this information so you know where to apply for some of those loans, what are some of the points, and also some of the extensions. And if you are thinking about, or you already are dealing with the I.R.S, what are some of the leeways, some of the relief that you gotten, or why it's now a really good time. This is the best time to get yourself ready so that come July 15th, you're the first in line. Because a lot of people are going to be, unfortunately, are going to have to deal with tax debt. And
So
not because of old tax debt. I think it's just going to be an issue now.
I agree with you. So if somebody doesn't file their income tax return by today, they shouldn't worry.
Yes, no, you haven't added. The only people that should file by today, really, is if you're getting a refund. If you're getting a refund, the IRS saying file it as soon as possible because you're still processing tax return, but only online. So you have to electronically file. If you file by paper, and if you already send it, don't try to e-file now. That'll just create a mess. Trust me. So you're gonna have to wait. But
do you have any other advice for anybody listening or watching who's just absolutely despondent over all these financial issues? Do you have any additional advice that you would give that we haven't talked about?
I guess the bottom line, this is it. I know finances, being a business owner myself, and you've been a business owner, finances may not be your strongest suit, and always with all the things that you have to worry about your business, it may not be the most important. You may not give it the focus, but this is really a good time, especially if you have some low time downtime in your business, to really look at the finances, put into place some of those practices like cash flow practices that I talked about. Those are going to help you throughout your whole business life. I mean, because it will give you the clarity to see when you need cash, when you can spend things. So this is a good time also. Even if you don't have problems with the IRS, it's a good time just to put all those good financial habits in place for your business and for yourself.
And Claudia, you gave us your email address before. Can you do it one more time and also give your phone number if anyone wants to reach you?
Yes, my email address is Claudia, Claudia, at Moncarz Law, MONCARZLAW.com. And my office phone number is 786-541-2705. Our Florida number is still the main number.
Hey, listen, as long as it reaches you, that's all people care about. And we really appreciate you taking the time on April 15th to give us some guidance in these very troubled times. And, I'm sure that a lot of people will really appreciate your advice on there. And it's always good to see you. I hope it's, in person the next time.
Yes, likewise. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. I want to get this information as much out there, especially because some of the things we talked about is not as publicized in the news as the government laws.
And this is all you do, so you're the right person.
This is all I do. This is my only lane. I stay in my lane.
Well, if you have any other questions for Claudia, you feel free to contact her. If you have any questions for me, again, my name is Jeff Adelman. I can be reached at 954-341-2777, or you can email me at jeff@adelmanlawyers.com, JEFF@ADELMAN lawyers.com. Be safe, be well. See you soon.